Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. Senator Tom Cotton represents the great state of Arkansas. He joins me now. Good morning, Senator. Welcome back. Good to talk to you.
Good morning, Hugh. Great to be on with you.
I want to talk to you about the debate and about the Supreme Court. You pick your order. Which would you prefer to do first?
Why don't we start with the debate, Hugh?
Okay. What did you make of that disaster?
Well, that reaction probably tells you all you need to know. Well, Hugh, first off, what you saw in Joe Biden Thursday night was not a bad night. It was not the result of a cold. A cold can give you the sniffles or a sore throat. It can't make you seem incoherent. But more importantly, a cold can't cause three-plus years of inflation and an open border and a chaotic war-filled world. If Joe Biden had come into that debate 25 years younger and trim and vigorous, he would still be a failed and weak president because his policies are failures. What you saw on Thursday night was just the capstone of 3.5 years of weak, feckless leadership, and that's why the American people are ready to evict Joe Biden from the White House and return Donald Trump.
You know, Senator, when former President Trump said, I don't understand what he said there, and I don't think he did either, sort of the takeaway line from the debate, I don't think President Biden should be president. And I think there's a 25th Amendment for a reason. I don't think he can run the world the way that an American president needs to run the world. Do you?
Yeah, the Democratic Party and its media wing has been in meltdown ever since Thursday night because the chickens are coming home to roost for them. They've all covered up this president's failures and his ineptitude for 3+ years, really going back to the campaign starting in 2019. Now they're worried that not only are they going to lose the White House, they're going to lose in a landslide to Republicans for the Congress as well. So they're trying to find a way out of this dilemma. Of course, President Biden chose Kamala Harris in 2020 to be the vice president in no small part because she provided 25th Amendment insurance. If he had chosen just a garden variety, accomplished state-level Democratic politician, the Democratic Party may have already invoked the 25th Amendment against the guy. But now they're trying to pressure him to leave the race, but that raises the question, if he's not fit to run for president, how can he be fit to serve as president for the next 7 months? His staff has started leaking against him and his family, saying that he's really super sharp and with it from 10 to 4. Well, Hugh, last time I checked, our adversaries, Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin and the Ayatollahs and Al-Qaeda and ISIS, don't just plot to harm America between the hours of 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. Eastern.
Can I play for you the most chilling thing that the president said? Cut number 2. It's only 3 seconds long, but I want to play it for you. Cut number 2, please.
That's the only terrorist that's there. I'm not saying that no terrorist ever got through.
I'm not saying no terrorist ever got through. Senator Cotton, I think we're going to get whacked, and I'm worried.
Well, Hugh, I can tell you I'm concerned about it as well. We've had radical Islamic terrorists trying to kill Americans, to include infiltrate America and kill us here for decades. After they succeeded on 9/11, we undertook a lot of initiatives and measures that reduced the likelihood of that. Joe Biden has opened our border, gutting every effort to stop terrorists from getting into this country. That's why you hear his FBI director say repeatedly that he's deeply alarmed about the threat of a mass casualty terror attack. And I think that's one of the reasons why Joe Biden said that in the debate. It's the same reason they issued that weak executive order on the border 2 or 3 weeks ago. It is advance CYA if there is a terror attack. Obviously, when you have a wide open border and more than 10 million illegals entering the country, there are probably more than just a few terrorists crossing the country. What we had under President Trump was a secure border where terrorists couldn't get in, and for that matter, illegal migrants couldn't enter either. Yet another reason why the American people are ready to return Donald Trump to the White House.
Now, Senator Cotton, let's talk about the Supreme Court. You're on the Judiciary Committee. You confirmed and voted to confirm, I think, more than half of the current court. I would like to ask you about your assessment. You're also a Harvard lawyer, of whether or not the decision that came down yesterday, creating, in essence, 3 categories: absolute immunity for official acts, a very close inquiry to mixed acts, which are both official and unofficial, no immunity for unofficial acts or in the office. Doesn't the Manhattan case have to go back and start over? Because I believe some of those decisions the president took in the White House, I don't know if he took them with the advice and counsel of his White House counsel or anyone else on his White House staff about what the campaign laws required. Do you?
I don't, Hugh. I know the president has filed a motion to vacate the conviction because it's not just the question you raise about whether some of the actions are official acts, but that the court also laid out some guidelines for how prosecutors would pursue those cases. So, for instance, they can't inquire into the president's motive. Second, they can't use evidence of official acts to establish or prove the elements of a crime involving unofficial acts. And I think there's no question on that front that some of what Judge Merchan allowed in the New York court would violate the standards the Supreme Court announced yesterday. So I think President Trump is right to go in to New York and move to vacate his conviction. Of course, the conviction should have never happened in the first place because he did nothing wrong. This is a chance of a mulligan for that judge and that judicial system to get it right after the Supreme Court announced what has to be the case in our constitutional system, that you cannot target past presidents for their actions in office. As you know, as a former advisor to Richard Nixon, there were efforts to do this in civil lawsuits, and the Supreme Court said you can't do it. Of course, the concern is even heightened in criminal prosecutions. And we've seen exactly what Joe Biden and the Democrats would do if there hadn't been this kind of immunity for past presidents. So the Supreme Court 100% got it right. President Trump was right on this all along, and his conviction in New York should be vacated.
Now, we had a discussion about the court this morning with Steve Ladek of Georgetown Law and Jonathan Adler of Case Western. And Steve and I got into it a little bit because I have been a general counsel of two federal agencies. I've been litigating against federal agencies for the 30 years that I practiced law. They are non-responsive. There are 1.86 million federal civilian employees who are not political appointees, and the administrative state doesn't give a whit about the average American. I welcomed Loper Bright as the most important decision of the term. What did you think of it?
Well, Hugh, obviously the Trump immunity case got the most attention, but there were several important cases here at the end of the Supreme Court's term that is beginning to rein in the administrative state. Loper Bright, as you mentioned, overturned the so-called Chevron deference doctrine, which said if Congress doesn't do our job and we punt to an administrative agency using vague and ambiguous language, the administrative agency doesn't get to decide how to settle that. It's the court's responsibility to say what the law is. Just look at the facts in the Loper Bright case. The fisheries regulator was putting one of its bureaucrats on a small fishing boat to monitor its catch and making the business pay for the regulator to be on there. That was the first case. The second case was an important case involving the SEC, saying that you cannot set up quasi-courts inside your own bureaucracy and then target American citizens with judicial-like cases and penalties without giving them a right to a jury. So that's the second big case. And third, yesterday, the court said that you have a right to challenge regulations at any time that you first are harmed by them. So let's say the SEC put out a regulation 12 years ago, but you were in school then, and you got out of college and you went into the broker-dealer business and you got your license, and now you're harmed by a regulation that you can still sue because it's your rights that have been harmed, not the agency's prerogative. So if you put all those three cases together, it was a huge victory for constitutional government and the liberties of the American people, a huge loss for the administrative state.
You didn't even mention Ohio versus EPA. It seems like every regulation the EPA has put out under Presidents Obama and Biden has been struck down by the Supreme Court because they overreach, Senator. We are a federalist system. I welcome that line of decisions as well. Do you ever talk about that on the Judiciary Committee, how these agencies are just ignoring the law and the president is just ignoring the law on student loan forgiveness?
Well, remember, these agencies are not neutral, nonpartisan scientific experts. They are the enforcement arm of the progressive movement. They were created in spirit and then in many cases in reality by some of the original progressives, most notably Woodrow Wilson. So the Democrats on the Judiciary Committee and writ large in the Congress love these agencies because they know they're largely controlled by Democrats who will help implement their agenda and who will help thwart the agenda of Republican presidents. That's one reason why the president or former President Trump has said when he gets back to the Oval Office, he's going to undertake sweeping civil service reform to make sure these people are responsive to the elected representatives of the American people, not their own whims or to the Democratic Party. Regarding the EPA, you're right, Hugh. The EPA loses cases almost as often as Jack Smith loses them at the Supreme Court.
Well, I am hoping someone talks to me about this federal civil Service Reform Act of 78 because I had to administer it at OPM. It's a nightmare. Let me close by asking you, Senator, about Justice Sotomayor's dissent. You served point in Baghdad. You know what it's like to have to make tough calls in a combatant situation. But Justice Sotomayor picked up the D.C. Circuit hypothetical of a SEAL Team 6 order to assassinate a political opponent. It's so stupid, hypothetical. No one I know in the American military, and I know a lot of people, I'm a civilian, would ever carry out an illegal order like that. However, they did carry out drone strikes on American citizens by President Obama, and he's glad he can't be sued. What did you make of that hypothetical from Justice Sotomayor?
Well, I think Justice Sotomayor and some of the other liberal justices, to put it kindly, have spent too much time watching MSNBC and following progressive social media, and now they largely dissent based on memes and tropes that they see on those sites. They don't engage in rigorous legal analysis. They are clearly suffering from a version of Trump derangement syndrome. If you put the shoe on the other foot and you said, yeah, you had some left-winger who was suing Barack Obama for killing an American teenage citizen during a drone strike on a terrorist camp, they would see these things very differently. What you saw yesterday, though, was a constitutionalist majority that is not ruling just in a particular case involving Donald Trump, but about broad constitutional principles that are going to apply for eternity. That's what they said at their oral argument. That's what the Supreme Court is supposed to do. The liberal justices oftentimes are just suffering from another version of MSNBC-inspired Trump derangement syndrome.
Very quick question, Senator. I have a new Fox News column. Trump dominated the debate. He doesn't need to do a second one. I do want to see a vice presidential debate, but I do not want him to go back in under the rules set by Team Biden. What do you think?
Well, I thought the president did a great job in the debate, and I know that he was pleased with the outcome as well. It had to be weird standing up there on stage with Joe Biden having a meltdown like that, but I believe he's looking forward to the debate, and I have no reason to think he won't do a great job the next time around. Now, I do think that Joe Biden is going to find any way possible to get out of the next debate because obviously his campaign is just trying to get through these next few weeks to get him formally nominated and then probably hide him out in the basement again.
Yeah, but I would like to see a fair rule set with questions about China and Iran. Senator Tom Cotton, have a great 4th of July. Talk to you on the other side of the Independence Day celebration. Don't go anywhere.